So we're here at the sanctuary. Could you remind us what your name is again?
I go by the pen name Big Comic.
Big Comic.
Yeah.
All right, so what's going on, guys? So we're here at the Big Comic Sanctuary here in Wynwood, just going through with some of the most high vibrational paintings I think I've ever seen out here, and just reminded me so much of the Wynn Group, which is literally right across the street, because they infuse fractals and sacred geometry, and like just every single detail is like literally meant to transport you to another dimension. And I felt it as soon as I walked in this space, and just seeing all the artwork that you have. And I am just gonna pan it just to see it real quick. There it is. And then want to just ask you real quick about, on your journey, what has been the leading guiding force for you into entering into the art world?
Entering into the art world. Well, I've dabbled in a little bit of art my entire life, but I've done like different things. I've worked at museums, I've taught kids, I've gone across the world, tried to go to all the art, see all the art. I studied art, went to art school, and try to see how art can transform people's lives. So, like taking my childhood love of comics too, and then translating that into modern contemporary themes, right? So art that talks to us, that talks about what it is to be human, and makes us think about contemporary issues that are human that we're facing today.
Just realizing that'll be one clip. The whole video is going to be clipped into parts. Make sure I'm in the frame. There we go. All right, and then I want to just go around, if it's okay, and just like ask each of us real quick about like what do you feel when you see this art, and where does it like excite you the most, you know? So I want to ask that to you, Francisco. Like when you're looking at this art, yeah, what does it excite within you?
So hello everyone, my name is Francisco, and I'm in finance, but I'm also an art dealer. I've been dealing with art for the last 3 years, and when I look at art, so I humanize the art, right? So because I've been around a lot of artists, I don't just look at art just as face value. I look at the history or the story behind the artist itself, because behind every piece of artwork, there's a human being. And that human being expresses whatever it feels, it thinks, it envisions into the art piece, right? And that energy gets transmitted to people, and that will draw certain people to certain artwork. So it's that energy that flows through the artist, through the artwork, and it gets received by the right person who will eventually buy the artwork. That's kind of the cycle that I've noticed. And I'm a finance guy, but I definitely see in person how this happens, where some people come in and they'll look at a piece of artwork and they're like, I like that, but 1,000 people walk right past it, right? So it's very interesting to see that, like so much foot traffic looking at art, and then somebody comes in and says, wow, it's like it matched. So it's kind of that matchmaking energetic process. That I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but that's how I've witnessed it.
And that's actually what inspired us to create this video right now, is we're talking about the matchmaking process, and how, and actually I'm reminded of a quote from my one friend when he looked at my happen. He said that I was recently on a call with Michael Jackson's PR manager, and he said something that stuck with me that I thought you might resonate with, is that Michael Jackson, like his job as a PR agent for Michael Jackson was to help the artist, Michael, and the soul behind his work to be related and communicated in the most effective way possible to the audience receiving it. And that is like ultimately when we're creating in the world, like there's always an essence of the identity of that person, or the soul behind it, and that's what people feel within art and within you know, like any type of creative endeavor that really inspires them to want to, you know, engage with it and buy it or be involved with it. So I really resonate with that. But yeah, I want to ask you as well, like maybe piggybacking off that, like what is the essence of what you feel, and even in your own creation in life, you know, how do you feel like, you know, you're being inspired to invoke that soul into all the work that you do?
Well, I would say very much with what Herman does, with being able to look at a person and tell them everything about themselves, is looking into the souls, looking into the depths of them. So with art, it's the same thing. When you're looking at what speaks to an artist or what their inner expression is, what their inner world is. Sometimes it's that turmoil, it's experiences that they've had, it's what ignites a spark within them. So I think art is very revealing, mostly of the artist and what's inside, what's really going on inside. And sometimes an artist may not understand where their expression comes from because it might be so embedded within them with what they've brought forth with them in this world. That I think is a very unique way to see a person, to see their self-expression and their thoughts of the world or the world around them or the world inside of them. So I think the both knowing what we do spiritually and then seeing what somebody creates in a physical world is a wonderful way of expression.
That's true. Yeah, the more we can bring down what we experience in the higher realms, and like, you know, the quote, everything starts in the mental plane before it reaches the physical, you know, in realms of how laws of nature work, you know. And a lot of times if we get too caught in the everyday hustle, we forget those laws of nature that created us and how to align back with them to really see from the deepest depths of creation, to pull things that, you know, ordinary human that is not necessarily connected to something higher and greater than themselves would be able to experience, you know. But that is what I see in your work, Herman, and what you've been able to achieve, which I'm extremely like inspired and humbled by, just having witnessed it in person and, you know, seeing it in unfolded many different ways, because you don't like show it off as like something that you want necessarily like everyone to know. It's just like it's there, and it's like there for the right people that are ready to receive it.
Correct.
You know, but you've been extremely kind as well to me, and like adapting to the ways of how I need it, and it's made me realize that it's not something that you can like force on people. You have to like kind of just meet people where they're at and then work off the energy that is there, which you do extremely well.
Well said.
And that's what I would ask you about, like how do you do that so well? Like what was it that kind of really allowed you to build that skill?
Well, I think we're all artists at the end of the day in some way, shape, or form. We're always creating something, whether it's on the left brain side, right brain side, whatever the brain side, whatever energetic side, we're all artists in some way, shape, or form. We create, we're born to create, right? But the differentiation is that when people such as talented Mr. Jake over here can create such beautiful masterpieces, it is where, in my interpretation, art is the ability and expression to tap into your soul, transmute that energy, and put it on a canvas. The problem is that most people, when they are transmuting that energy, it gets lost, it gets diverted, it gets distracted, so it can't come as a full expression onto the canvas. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So when an artist is in a certain part of their, let's say, career, they can do certain things well, certain things maybe not so well because of what the soul is experiencing, what's going on in the environment, and how they're able to tap into energy. So you talk about Michael Jackson. There's a very, very, I would say, secluded story that not many people know about. And he wakes his entire team up in the middle of the night and says, get here to the studio right away. So everyone goes to the studio right away, and they're like, okay, what's the emergency? What's the problem? He's like, there's no emergency. He's like, I need to do this song before Prince does. I'm like, how do you know Prince is going to do it? Because I know where music comes from. I know where it's downloaded from. If we don't do it, Prince is going to get it. We got to get this done tonight. And see, that's the same thing of the artist, right? You capture something when people don't know what that is. Can I share what that is? Mm-hmm. So when we look up in the sky, we see all the stars. We see all of the beautiful things that, you know, a lot of people don't fully understand. We call that astrology. The problem is, in the cosmos and in astrology, whenever we came into this existence, it was at a very specific moment where the star was, the light was, everything was, the sun was, the moon was, and the alignment of the planets were. So we're at a very specific moment. Then when you take energy from that moment, and then you are able to understand geometry that says, okay, from that moment, what did people do next? They used the signs of where the star was connected to, so now they created those geometric shapes. Now you have those shapes in mathematics.
Clip, pause, move angle to be a
I
little
was gonna say, you wanna
more
put it-
optimized because he's getting into some very deep stuff. Make sure it's.
So you tell me where it goes.
You just put
Let's
that-
keep it in one piece.
There you go. Is that good?
That's it.
Stay.
Groovy.
Yep.
Keep going.
So ideally, when we come from the astrological plane, that's our specific point in time. That's us. That's unique to us. Energetically, that's us. No one can take it. No one can steal it. That's us. Then we take that and say, well, what did the ancient civilizations, what did the ancients and the elders know? Well, they understood that that's where that ancient specific energetic time and space was. We got to create mathematics and geometry and geometrical shapes so that we can learn how to map it. Follow me so far? So that now they're able to map it. So when you look at the structures and everything they built, it was accordance to the star maps based off of that astrological time and period. Then you take that and you say, okay, well, what's wrong with humans? Well, when we don't necessarily know where we come from. We don't know exactly how we transition from energy to transmute to energy to transmute. And so then when we go to the next part, which is the alchemy, everybody wants to be the changer, the creator, and so forth, but they're stuck only in that one pillar. And the issue is we have to learn to say, okay, we understand where we came from astrologically, we understand geometrically where we are, what we're connected to, things that we gravitate easy for us but more difficult for others. And then we see where we go to alchemize ourselves to say, this is where we start changing, so that once we start understanding the evolution of us, we can go back to the geometry. We can say, okay, now we can start recreating that puzzle, recreating that art, recreating the canvas, so we can go back to the astrological period, which is the very beginning, so that we have like that entire cycle, so that the soul doesn't get stuck in one cycle, so the soul can have the evolution to understand that the human itself has the ability to be a god, but everybody else is too busy being a peasant. Mentally, they want to be a victim. Physically, they don't put the right fuel inside, so they're not going to live very long. Spiritually, they're selling the soul faster than they can get it. And so we have to start changing those things so we can make sure that those pillars exemplify the formula, so that we can start creating masterpieces like Mr. Jake here. So that when you do that, then now if you think about it, everybody's got something locked away, something secret inside. But who's helping us unlock it? Well, that's my specialty. I want to make sure that everybody unlocks that, so that when they can tap into it, they can express themselves, they can be able to do what it is that they do great. That's easy for them, but difficult for others.
Wow. Yeah, it's very powerful. You know, what I like kept hearing in my head as you're speaking all that is like just the quote from the Bible that cleanliness is next to godliness, because as you start to purify the vessel, you start to have a clearer channel. And it's just like anything, like even in a glass of water, like if it's dirty, you know, around the edges, you pour water in it, there's going to be contamination in there.
Correct.
And it's going to cause you to be sick. So it's just like how the human body works, you know, and when you, learn how to achieve that. But it happens in so many different dimensions, like you said, and it's like even considering the fact of how, if all this astrology stuff is real that you're talking about, that we actually had like a soul contract before we came into this life of, you know, how our destiny was going to unfold, who we were going to be born into this world with, and as parents, as, you know, people we're going to meet and significant others and things of that nature, then by definition, like, there has to be an intelligent creator. And I think what art really helps us to see is that we do have, you know, an intelligent force of nature, because like only when you're so present in the moment are you able to see into how everything has been orchestrated beyond our mind's ability to comprehend. So you have to get out of the mind and into the body, you know, or like get into deeply into yourself, you know. And that's why, like, the quote from the Matrix that, you know, the only way out is through, rings true throughout all of creation. Like, the more you try to escape something, get out of the moment, the more, you know, it will evade you, and you'll never be able to actually deal with that thing that you're running away from, you know, so you have to, yeah, really learn how to sit and be still. That's another question I really have for you as well, is because for me, you know, I've been meditating for like 10 years, and sometimes I still find it difficult to stay and clear my thoughts and just like tap into that flow state. But I'm curious for you, having come from that, you know, monastic background,
Yes.
what is it that has helped you the most? And just kind of speaking a little on your journey to realize all of these things that you just shared.
So a lot of people, they don't realize the importance and the value of space. So I'll give an example. When you buy a new phone, you buy a new computer, you buy whatever, the most expensive one is the most amount of space. Same size, same everything, but the space is what you're buying. How many of us created the necessary space inside of this superhuman computer to ensure that it was able to update? When's the last time you updated? When's the last time your neighbor updated their hardware and software? Some people, they only update once, if that much. So the idea is to make sure that when you do meditation, it's constantly, and there's only one purpose. It's not to feel good, it's not to sleep, it's to create the space necessary inside, and that byproduct of that is called peace. The byproduct of that equates to being more efficient. The byproduct of that is to have no more brain fog, because now you are connected because the space is useful. And the whole idea is if we can create enough useful spaces inside of this vessel, internally and externally in the environment, now when we become superhuman, which means nothing ever shows up that becomes an obstacle. You look at the most successful people, they understand the two most important things because they move the fastest: light and sound. Following? The problem is, a lot of people who are not successful is because they're either only doing one or the other, and then they replaced one or the other with excuses. So why can't they hear? Because they created the excuse before they fully retained what it is that they were supposed to receive. Why can't they see very well? Because they created an excuse why they can't create that vision, why they can't create the life that they were supposed to create. Make sense? So we have to make sure that the clarity between the sight and the sound allows the space inside to be utilized, and then that's how you transmute and evolve. And then when you train the vessel to be with the armor, you train the vessel to be superhuman. That is how we're able to evolve past basic systems and what we call mediocrity.
Yeah, you know, as you said that too, I always like to sometimes break down the etymology behind words, and I had never thought about this until just now, but when you said the word excuse, I thought of like use.
Yes.
So to make an excuse is to shut off your usefulness or your ability to use your senses to achieve a certain task or achieve a certain goal. So, you know, that is actually really profound when you think about it, because like the only limit to the human machine is the amount of excuses that we make. Because the human vessel, if you look throughout society in the ages, and people like this guy that have created insurmountable works of art, people that have achieved superhuman tasks, such as being able to, you know, go without sleeping for weeks, or go, you know, without eating for years, or, you know, depending how much you look into it, about certain people that could like live beyond the body and be able to, you know, achieve what they call samadhi. Like all of these different superhuman abilities that you can think of are because they did not put an excuse. They were able to fully realize what this human machine is capable of using, that already exists within it, to just achieve extraordinary greatness, you know? And it's like, yeah, the only limit is really what you put on yourself.
Correct.
You know,
and
so.
you look at the champions of the champions, they never had an excuse. First in the gym, last out. Just to your point.
Yeah. So I guess that leads me as well, just because I'm also, you know, in this flow state where we were just discussing about soul match platform and like how to match the soul of your soul to the frequency of your highest creation, your highest ability to manifest, you know, the life that you've always wanted. And especially now in the age of AI, as people start to fear their jobs being replaced and wondering what will be left when we reach a point that most of the laborious tasks can be done, and you know what is going to come after that. What they always talk about, the singularity, or a state where, you know, everything runs autonomously, and the only thing left really is your consciousness and your ability to develop the consciousness to utilize in new creative ways that you'll have to figure out, because as it's always been throughout society, times continuously evolve and we have to learn to adapt into new ways of living and being. But a lot of people can't see it, you know, so how do we match our soul to that frequency where it can create from the highest levels to where even if all the laborious tasks are replaced by AI, we can still continue to evolve as a human species?
Well, first and foremost, like we said, meditation, and the reason why we want the space inside for meditation is because think of it like the battery. You always have to make sure the battery is recharged. How many people say they're sick and tired of being sick and tired? They're always tired, right? It's so to make sure that you always have a fully charged battery. And then what we call that is the pooling or the cultivation of that energy. So when you pool it and you have a reserve, now that you've pooled for enough time, then you have the ability to move it. That's transmutation. Then when you have the ability to move it, now you have the ability to completely understand and bypass all the systems that this has been confined to, so that you are then able to supersede and ensure that you enter to the state or the highest of all states. And different civilizations use different words or verbiage, but they mean very similar, same things. And what we'll use as an example, let's say, is nirvana as a consciousness. It is the ability to live outside of this and inside of this at the same time, where nothing else matters. Everything is just oneness. And it's the ability that once you have enough of that pull in, once you have the control to transmute, then you can decide when it is your time.
I love that. And I have one more question that really also I wanted to ask you, which is along those same lines, and how you've been able to achieve certain feats within, you know, creating and developing online systems for creatives and for brands and businesses to learn how to, you know, achieve the most impact. How does what we just discussed here relate to that, and how were you able to achieve such great feats, such as like winning the top awards from the ClickFunnels and getting people to, you know, basically have the most optimized systems to structure and organize their life and their business?
So first and foremost, we have to see who the owners are first, and see who the top leadership is, to make sure like it's compatible, the energy and the synergy is good. Once you are able to understand that, then we take it to the next pillar, saying, okay, well, geometrically, how do things connect? So like on the funnel, does it make sense to have a bold here, italic here? Does it make sense to go down further? What should be at the front? What should be at the top? So then from that, you say, okay, how can we alchemize it? Well, let's do A/B testing. Let's do a test here. Let's see a test here. Let's see if we can increase the ROAS depending on what it is that we are able to get from here. What's the take rate? What is like customer acquisition cost? Let's see what data we can get from that. And then it's being able to put it back through the formula, back and forth, and then it's able to tap into the secret ingredient that's very proprietary to say, you know what, this is the missing sauce, this is the missing key, this is the secret key. Let's apply that, and then let's put it on steroids.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, anyone that's ever, you know, created like workflows or funnels or websites or systems can grasp that. So I love how you make it distilled enough to where the average person could, you know, grasp what you're saying, yet also I realize there's like an infinite depth behind all of that. So I really look forward to learning more, and I think this was such an incredible interview, so I want to just thank you for your time.
Hey, I appreciate you, David.
Yeah, and we'll definitely tap in very soon here. Thanks for watching.